It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Canada Paralympian swimmer, Tammy Cunnington. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into swimming professionally?
Actually, it was never my plan to become a swimmer. It kind of happened a roundabout way. I had taken time away from sports and was feeling out of shape and not myself. And so I started to work out at a gym when I moved to the city I live in now. And they had actually started Try Your First Triathlon club. So I decided to do that first. And I did triathlon for 10 or 12 years before I ended up switching to swimming. So it was it wasn't my goal to be a swimmer. It just happened.
Of course, what was it like, obviously, being a triathlon and then switching over to swimming?
It was different. It was triathlon, of course, is more of an endurance sport, much longer distances, and having the swimming, the hand cycling, and the race chair combined. But it was, in some ways, it was nice because I went from, all that endurance training to switching to sprints where my focus was only 50 meters or 100 meters. So it had good points and bad points.
How was it like in 2015 getting to compete in swimming for the first time?
It was really cool. I hadn't competed on a national team for a long time, almost 20 years actually, since I was in college and played wheelchair basketball. So it was exciting to be back in that environment and to wear the maple leaf again.
Of course, how has obviously your wheelchair basketball experience helped you in your swimming experience?
It's a different team environment, but it still helped me prepare for the team environment. Because in swimming, even though we're in the water alone, we're still supporting each other on pool deck. So it helped that, as well as it had just given me a base of sport and a comfort level at international competition.
How is it like in 2015 getting to travel to Scotland to compete in the IPC?
It was same. It was really exciting. I'd already been fortunate to have traveled a lot of the world, but I hadn't been to Scotland, and it was just that one more step, because at that point I was really on the road to Rio. So I just knew that 2015 World Championships in Scotland was a stepping stone, and I would get the feel of the ready room and the international athletes together and things like that. So it was a good prep for Rio.
What was it like, obviously, preparing for Rio and getting to Rio?
It was a lot. We finished out the summer in 2015 late in August. So, and then trials were already April of 2016. So there was only a few months of time to rest, recover, and then prepare and peak again. So it was very intense. I took as much time off after Pan Am Games as I felt like I could. And then, we turned around and really did a heavy build and peak into trials in April. So it was very, very intense.
What was it like competing in the Pan Am trials in 2015 and going to the Pan Ams?
The trials in 2015 were really exciting because it was kind of my first shot to make a swimming team, and I didn't yet know where I measured up completely with my competition. So it was a really exciting meet, and I prepped really well going into it and went best times in all of my events, and not only made the team for Pan Ams but the team for World Championships that same summer. So it was really a really exciting event.
Of course, during that Pan Ams in 2015, what was it like getting to put on 1 silver and 2 bronze medals?
That was definitely a highlight. Pan Am Games were in Toronto, and it was the first time I've been able to compete on home soil for an event of that caliber. So knowing that most of the people in the stands were cheering, were cheering for me, especially I was typically only the only Canadian in my races, so it was really great to have all of that cheering. And when I wore that medal, it was just a I don't know the word I'm looking for. It just justified all the work that I put in, I guess is the word.
Of course, how special was that winning on home soil of Toronto?
It was really special. I was in one of my events. I was the only Canadian out of 8, and the all other 7 competitors were from Mexico. And so it was really exciting because the stands were full. And when I could hear, under the water, you can still hear the cheering, and you could hear them stomping their feet on the bleachers. And I knew all that was for me. So it was very special.
Of course, following that, what was it like preparing for your first Paralympic Games in 2016?
It was a lot. There was so much to prepare for, not just the swimming part, but we're preparing for travel and preparing to be living in the village for 5 weeks. And we spent a lot of that summer away from home. We had training camp in the East, and then home for a bit, and then another training camp in the East, and then off to Rio. So it was, like I said, it was very intense and very exciting all at the same time.
What was that preparation like for your first Paralympic Games?
It was a lot. There was just so much pool time, gym time, mental prep time, sports psych, massage, physio, making sure I had food and eating to go along with all that training. So yeah, there was a lot involved for that preparation.
What were some of your favorite memories in the 2016 Paralympic Games?
One of my favorite ones was that after one of my races, I went upstairs, and I hadn't had the race I was hoping to have. And I went up to see my family. And while I was out of the team bubble and with, in the stands with my family, a lot of the people from Rio who were there wanted to come and meet me and have their picture taken. And they didn't care that I hadn't gone best time. They didn't care if I felt like I had failed in my race. They just were excited that I had raced. They were excited to see me, and they wanted to come and meet me. And there were 2 girls from Rio standing off to the side, and I looked at them and kind of gave them a wave because I knew they wanted to come in. And then they turned around and gave a wave. And then there was about 30 kids, teenagers from Rio all around me. And you could just see my head in the picture. And their excitement really, lifted me up. And that was my best memory.
Of course, what was that like, obviously getting to meet your fans in Rio?
It was cool. It was exciting to see the impact that you can have, even if you're not wearing a gold medal, right? You can still see that you're inspiring people and that people are looking up to you, and to be able to touch people's hearts from swimming and just from using my heart and my commitment, my dedication, and touch their hearts is really special.
Of course, in 2017, what was it like going to the Canada Opens?
I honestly am not sure if I remember that meet specifically. That must have been trials. Oh, right. Okay. So in 2017, we were supposed to go to World Championships in Mexico City. And we'd been at elevation training for weeks when there was an earthquake in Mexico City, and we couldn't go. So we needed to race to post times for rankings and carding and such. So we went to Toronto and raced just us in Australia. And it was it was tough because it was quiet. We didn't have any fans. Our families weren't there. So it was a more challenging meet than I think it even is when we're under more pressure at World Championships.
How's it like getting to travel to Edmonton in 2018 for the Canada trials?
Well, that one was nice because I live in Alberta, so it was a home meet for me. So it was nice and easy travel, and it was a good meet. I'd had a couple rough seasons after Rio, so I was just kind of rebuilding, and I had a really strong meet and made the team for Pan Pacifics that summer.
Of course, what was it like going to Australia in 2018 for the Pan Pacifics?
Pan Pacifics were really fun because it was for one, I'd never been to Australia before, so that was exciting. And I had the chance to go to the koala sanctuary on one of our days off before racing. And then the meet itself was really fun because it's a little bit smaller, fewer countries, being only the countries on the Pan Pacific Rim. And so it was a fun competition.
Of course, during your time as a triathlon, what was it like racing on the international level?
Triathlon was hard, and racing internationally was challenging because I had so much equipment to pack, and my bike and my my hand cycle and my racing chair. So it was a lot, but I really did love triathlon as well.
How did it feel when you got announced that you would be making the Paralympic team for the second time going to Tokyo?
That was meant a lot because I'd had 2 years of COVID where I hadn't been able to train properly, or I guess not quite 2 years, but it had been a long time of COVID and not being able to train, not having full access. There were times when all my competition had access to water and I didn't. So making that team really proved all of my dedication and hard work really had paid off and was showing the results.
Of course, what were some of the similarities and differences between the first time you went to the Paralympic Games and in 2020 when you went?
Unfortunately, most of the differences were related to COVID because we didn't obviously have that in Rio, and in Tokyo, all the masking and testing and COVID protocols really changed things. We didn't interact as much with our competition and people from other countries. We were a little bit more just within Canada building. So that was the main difference. And then I didn't know after in Rio if I was planning to retire or continue, whereas in Tokyo, I was quite sure I was retiring. So it had a different feel to it, a different level of intensity, and I kind of different goals too. I wanted to just go, I wanted to make the team and celebrate that and really go for myself and not worry about the clock and the competition and just have my own success.
Of course, when you made it in 2020, what was it like? Obviously, after you said that you knew that you were going to retire after then.
Yeah, so it did change things a little bit. I was probably 95% sure I would retire after Tokyo, and I just wanted to finish my career on a positive note. I wanted to have fun. I wanted it to be, light and like I said, a good time and positive ending. I didn't want to come home and never get in a pool again. So I really focused on keeping it a positive finish to my career.
What was the feeling like the first time you got to put on the Canada swimsuit versus this last time that you put it on?
I guess the first time it had, lots of potential and excitement connected to it. And then the last time it had more nostalgia and memories and a different feeling.
Of course, what is it like obviously getting to represent Team Canada and having the maple leaf on your swimsuit?
It means so much, like to have that maple leaf. It still is on our chest on our swimsuit, and just to know that you're, all the hard work paid off, and to know that we're one of, a select group of people who have made it that high up in elite sport. And I love Canada, so I love to be able to represent my country and my community and just share with the world who Canadians are.
Of course, how does it feel to have the Paralympic rings on the swimsuit?
We call them the Parylmpic agitos because they're not closed rings like the Olympic side. But same, it's that feeling of having accomplished what I've been working for so long, and all the blood, sweat, and tears are worth it when you have that logo on your clothing.
What was it like the first time you got to stand next to the Paralympic agitos?
It was very emotional. It was something I thought about a lot of my life, but when I retired from basketball, I didn't think the Paralympics would happen for me. So in Rio, when I first saw the statue of the agitos, it was almost overwhelming and really exciting at the same time.
Of course, as you talked about retiring from basketball, what was that like compared to retiring from swimming?
When I retired from basketball, it wasn't on a positive note. It was more that I was just kind of fed up with things, and it was a difficult team sport. So I kind of retired more negatively. I didn't pick up a basketball for many, many years, whereas in swimming, I really made sure that I could retire on a high note instead.
What was it feeling like living out your Paralympic dream?
Yeah, it was just such an accumulation. I kind of had to look back and celebrate all the way back to the time I was 6 years old and after my injury and all the recovery and rehab, and celebrate the full journey instead of just the games themselves. So that was what I tried to focus on, is celebrating all that it took to get there.
What are some of the special game day routines and rituals that you do to prepare for a swim meet?
I don't have a lot, but I don't talk very much, and I don't like to be around a lot of talking. So usually I do have the same warm up that I do every day before race. So that, because I have lots of anxiety prior to getting in the water, and then that warm up kind of would start to calm me down and build me up at the same time. And then once I'm out of the warm up and the duration between out of warm up and the gun going off, I like it to be quiet. I like to have my headphones on and not talk, and nobody talk to me, and just be in my space.
Of course, how does it feel to have Paralympian behind your last name?
It means a lot. It's we have the PLY now, like the Olympians have the OLY, and it's really special to have that, because I put in a lot of work to earn that and to earn it 2 times. So it's special to have that behind my name.
Who are some of the people that you look up to in the swimming community?
I didn't know very much about swimming before I started, because I'd been involved in other sports. My coach, Mandy Smith, I definitely really looked up to. And then in terms of just like general sport heroes and people that motivated me, I had looked up to Wayne Gretzky since I was a little kid. I'd been a diehard Oiler fan, and he was definitely my biggest sport hero.
Of course, who are some of the influential people in your career?
Like I said, definitely Wayne Gretzky for like idols, Rick Hansen, and then my coach Mandy Smith, and my family, because my family was always behind me each time I took on a new challenge like this. So they really influenced me to continue and to push. And my husband, he was with me through all the swimming time. So he was definitely an influence.
Throughout your whole entire career, what were some of your favorite memories of being in the Paralympics?
I like when you get to the competition pool the first day, and you get to walk out and see all the branding and all the lights and all the stands. That's definitely a big memory, especially in Tokyo, because combination of COVID, combination of having had a rough couple of years of training, I wasn't sure that I would make that. So I remember coming out, and it was all blue, and coming out into that comp pool was really, really special.
How has the transition been for you, going from being a swimmer to now getting into the corporate world?
Well, I mostly, since I retired, I'm just getting more into speaking and things like that. But so far my transition, it's been okay. It's a little hard not to have those high moments of making the teams or touching the wall, in the pool at a good time. I'm still training a lot and working out, but now I can focus it more on activities instead of the clock. So I can swim for health and fitness, and I can paddleboard more and downhill ski again, things that I didn't do because I didn't want to get hurt, when I was competing. And so it has been a transition, and now I'm just kind of balancing fitness and speaking engagements and all of this kind of stuff, just finding a new path.
Of course, what are some of your future speaking engagements look like coming up?
Right now, I have only a couple others. I'm going to speak to some other young para athletes and hopefully encourage them along their way. This summer, they're going to be at a sports camp in Calgary. So I'm going to have a chance to speak with them and hopefully, share my journey and encourage them on that path.
What advice would you give current swimmers and even future swimmers looking to compete?
I think it's just to remember that nothing is out of reach, even when it might seem like it. Just to continue with the positive thoughts and put in the work regardless, and then you can deal with the outcome after. But always know that there's a chance for your dreams to come true, and just keep working for it.
What advice would you give Paralympians looking to compete for the first time like you did, or even multiple times like you have?
Same. I think it's just knowing the amount of work and dedication that it takes and the commitment, and then knowing if they really want to be a long-term athlete, knowing about recovery and knowing about when to take time off. So when to rest and when to push is a really important part of it.
What advice would you give future Paralympians and even Olympians that are looking to transition from the sport to after sport, just like how you have?
I think it's really good to have a plan in place before that retirement. I knew, I had a pretty good idea I was retiring. Some people end up without that long-term plan of retirement, but it's just to have as much of a plan in place and think about what your days will look like ahead of time, so it's not a complete shock to the system when it comes.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at TJ_Cunnington, and on LinkedIn as well, just at Tammy Cunnington.
Thank you again, Tammy Cunnington, for your interview, and best of luck in your future endeavorments.
Thank you.
Find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. You can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Tammy Cunnington, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.